What's going on, everyone? Today we are checking out the most impressive church in Paris. When I think of Notre Dame, I just think of the college that we have here in the US.
Lad, are you dumb? Are you getting rude to man?
I guess that's just American culture that I've learned over the years. Notre Dame is a college in the US. No, there's actually a Notre Dame church, but I don't know what this church is called. I don't know the name of it. I haven't even pressed play yet. Now, I'm really excited for this one because European architecture is just stunningly beautiful. I've seen quite a bit of it from across all of your guys' countries, and today we're going to see the most impressive church. I've seen quite a bit of it, but I haven't seen this yet, so hit the like button and let's dive in.
Gothic architecture, distinguished by its use of pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and flying buttresses, flourished in France in the 13th century, in a period of architecture known as High Gothic, where the construction of cathedrals reached an exceptional level of refinement and height.
Dang. I feel like I've seen this building in like one clip of another video that I watched. Is this the one that they've been building forever? No, I feel like that's a different one. This is really cool though.
Around 1230, there was a reaction against the huge scale of High Gothic cathedrals, and architects began to use the same structural approach on smaller scaled buildings, which brought a new sense of intimacy and an increased complexity of detail, now intended to be appreciated at close quarters. This new style was
I love the blue and gold. That looks so good.
later known as Rayonnant Gothic. The word rayonnant is French for radiant, and this name is due to the rays of light that radiate through the windows. The nature of the style made it ideal for palace chapels, of which the most spectacular example is the Sainte-Chapelle in Paris.
Sainte-Chapelle?
Built between 1242 and 1248, the Sainte-Chapelle was commissioned by King Louis IX to house the relics of the Passion which he had acquired from the Emperor of Constantinople.
Yo, this is a pretty crazy model. Wherever this is like displayed at, that's nuts.
Among them the crown of thorns and a fragment of the true cross. These relics cost him twice as much as the construction of the building, and he brought them to France in 1238. The Ile de la Cité, the heart of the city of Paris since antiquity, was dominated by Notre Dame Cathedral on the east, and on the west by the Palais de la Cité, the royal residence of the kings of France in the Middle Ages, making the island the seat of political and religious power. The chapel was built attached to the Palais de la Cité as a symbol of the king's piety and authority. So as you approach the building, standing within a small courtyard inside the palace, you'll notice its structure is slightly different than the larger cathedrals.
Wow.
In Gothic cathedrals, you have flying buttresses to hold the structure of the arches. But because this building is so small, flying buttresses would prevent light from passing through the windows. And the main objective of Gothic architecture is to get as much light as possible inside the building.
Yeah.
So in order to be able to have such small buttresses that could support the thrust of the vaults, the architect of the Sainte-Chapelle designed a system of internal iron rods that encircle the building, linking the buttresses horizontally.
Really?
These rods are concealed in the masonry and pass across.
Even like this coming off the side, so cool. Why don't we do stuff like this anymore? I think we just need to go back in time and imagine what we could build now with like all the tools that we have. We could easily make like absolutely stunning buildings. Instead, we get stuck with like just glass rectangles coming out of the ground.
These rods are concealed in the masonry and pass across the windows, also serving as the framework that supports the glass.
That's cool.
Thanks to this ingenious dematerialization of the structure, and to the wondrous properties of medieval stained glass, the interior of the Sainte-Chapelle has no equal, as the chapel is flooded with colorful rays of light that enrich the spiritual and divine experience of entering the chapel. The arrangement of the pinnacles and other elements such as the balustrade, the gargoyles, and the exterior tracery mimic the shape of a reliquary reflecting the building's purpose. But they also mimic the shape of a medieval crown with its jewels and ornaments. This resemblance to a crown could be interpreted as a symbolic homage to the relic it was built to enshrine, reinforcing its spiritual and sacred significance. Making the total height of the building over 75 meters, the spire is built of cedar wood and covered with lead for weather resistance. Statues of saints, gargoyles, and ornate carvings highlight the craftsmanship and the attention to detail.
Wow.
The spire not only
It is really
accentuates
stunning.
the verticality of the building, making it visible from the distance, but also serves as a symbolic element that stretches towards the heavens.
I kind of like the models because you can kind of get a better view of it. When you're on the ground and they're trying to get a shot of it, you can't see it as well as the model, so that's pretty cool. I wonder if the model is inside of it. I'm kind of guessing that's what it is. It looks like they are inside of it. You can see the stone right there. I could be wrong, though.
The Sainte-Chapelle has 2 levels. In the ground floor, there is a room with a low ceiling that was a chapel for the servants of the royal palace, while the spacious upper chapel was used by the royal family and the court. The ground chapel is accessed from the courtyard, and the upper chapel is accessed from the palace.
Look at that.
From the main facade, you can appreciate the double height of the upper chapel. The rose window of the Sainte-Chapelle was built in the 15th century, using
That's
a later
crazy.
style of Gothic architecture.
That's kind of like it is. It's the flower of life. That's what that is. I know it's. We'll let him explain it, but
Known as flamboyant, which is French for flaming. And it was called that because you can see how the stone tracery has curves forming flame-like shapes. Other elements from the exterior are also from the 15th century,
it's like a more organic version of a flower of life.
such as the 2 small spire on top of the 2 towers on each side of the main facade, both decorated with fleurs de lis beneath sculpted crowns of thorns. As you enter the ground chapel, you'll notice the polychromy on the interior. Usually Gothic architecture is not colored, but the walls, columns, and traceries of the Sainte-Chapelle are completely painted with bright colors such as gold, red, and green. And the vaults are painted of royal blue with fleurs de lis.
Yeah, the blue and gold just looks so good together.
The columns inside alternate between red and blue, and each represent the 2 royal families from which the king, Louis IX, descended. The blue columns with the fleurs de lis represent the Capetian dynasty through his father, and the red columns with the golden castle represent the kingdom of Castile in Spain through his mother.
What's
And at
in the
the
middle
end
that
of the
glass?
chapel, in the center, you'll see a statue of Louis IX, known also as King Saint Louis. This chapel is very compact as it has columns in the middle of the space, and the ceilings are low, giving a cave-like effect thanks to how close you can see the vaults. As I said, originally you would have
Jeez.
entered each chapel
I bet like on a super bright sunny day, this thing just looks immaculate.
through the central portal on each floor. But the way you access the upper chapel now as you visit the Sainte-Chapelle is through the spiral staircases on the sides after visiting the ground floor chapel. So after being compacted in the lower chapel, and then compacted
so
even
cool.
more as you climb up the narrow stairs, you finally get to the upper chapel. That gives you an amazing expansion of light and space.
Dang. Oh, come on. You gotta have real chandeliers with real candles. I mean, I know it's a real chandelier. You gotta light candles. Come on.
Because of the structure conformed of thin buttresses, there are almost no walls inside. The whole space is contained by 670 square meters of stained glass.
Glass and iron, right? That's a sick shot.
Most of the glass panels are original, and they depict 1,113 scenes from the Bible. The 3 central windows of the apse represent scenes of the life of Jesus, taken from the New Testament.
That's cool. I would get stuck staring at those forever, just like looking at each individual one.
The windows on the north and south sides, except for the last one on the south corner, represent scenes from the Old Testament, such as the creation or scenes from the life of Moses. The window on the corner depicts the history of the relics that were held in the chapel, presenting King Louis IX as the legitimate successor of the kings of Israel. And finally, the rose window, being oriented towards the west, depicts the book of Revelation, symbolizing the end of times.
Is that the middle? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know. We'll keep going.
End of times.
Really cool. Man, the detail on that. Oh, wow.
The most fascinating thing about the scenes depicted in the windows
Look at all the color.
is that, although they are biblical scenes from antiquity, the characters are depicted as medieval people, wearing medieval clothes and armor, and walking in medieval towns surrounded by medieval castles. Kings from antiquity wearing medieval crowns, and ancient priests wearing medieval clothes. These biblical scenes are presented through a medieval lens, because artists from the Middle Ages could only draw upon their contemporary concept of king, attire, and architecture.
Yeah, of course. I feel like I'm not even talking. I'm like mesmerized, like watching all of the pictures in the glass, trying to like spot things. I have a little bit of knowledge on, not a little bit. I have a lot of knowledge on religion. So
33 meters in length and 10 and a half.
of course it's 30. Of course it's 33 meters. If you guys know what that means, if you know, you know.
Meters in width. And the vaults reach a height of 20 and a half meters. A small space for a Gothic building, yet it retains that sense of verticality, characteristic of Gothic architecture. The bottom of the walls have a place for the court members to sit, and in the third traverse of the chapel, there's a niche carved in each side of the walls, each decorated with archivolts and sculpture angels and richly painted. These spaces were for the king and queen to sit during ceremonies.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. Like when they were doing the wide shots, that's crazy. I don't think did he say how long it took to build this?
Altar, which once held the 22 relics that King Louis IX had acquired. The Gothic altar is adorned with gilded elements and intricate carvings, and it serves as a focal point of the chapel's interior, drawing the eye upwards towards the stained glass windows and the vaulted ceiling.
That's crazy.
You can see that the vaults from the upper chapel are also painted blue, but instead of having painted fleur-de-lis like the lower chapel, they have golden stars. This distinction in decoration visually represents the medieval belief in the divine right of kings, where the monarchy is seen as ruling under divine authority.
Yeah.
The fleur-de-lis in the lower chapel symbolize the monarchy's protection over its subjects, while the starry ceiling in the upper chapel symbolizes the heavens, emphasizing the royal family's proximity to God.
Yeah, it's almost like the ceiling is like the stars, kind of.
Just outside the chapel in the top level, you can see the main portal through which the royal family and its court would access the chapel back in the Middle Ages. You can see the figure of Christ in the center of the tympanum. Next to him are two angels with the two main relics that the chapel held, the crown of thorns and the cross. And on the sides are Virgin Mary and John the Baptist. Below, the lintel shows Saint Michel weighing the souls of the dead.
So much to look at here. I can't even... My gosh. For someone to be able to make this, especially with like hand tools, is just mind-blowing. Holy cow.
and the damned on the right. On the lower walls, you see panels depicting biblical scenes. On the left, you have the creation, and on the right, Noah's Ark.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Most of the portal was destroyed during the French Revolution, and it was remade by a French sculptor in the 19th century.
Okay.
Several parts of the Sainte-Chapelle were damaged during the Revolution, and in the 1840s, scholars, archaeologists, and architects restored the chapel to its medieval state, being as faithful as possible with the original drawings and descriptions that had survived.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it was destroyed. The outside definitely, like what we were just looking at there, looked really, really clean. So
Eugène Emmanuel Viollet-le-Duc,
at least.
who, after working on the Sainte-Chapelle, dedicated his life to restore Gothic architecture, most notably the Cathedral of Notre Dame. In the Middle Ages, Jean de Jardin, a French writer, described the experience of entering the Sainte-Chapelle, which gives us a sense of what medieval people thought when entering these impressive Gothic churches. But also that most beautiful of chapels, the Chapel of the King, most fittingly situated underneath the walls of the royal palace, is graced with the most firm and indissoluble structure of the most solid of the stones, the most select colors of paints, the precious gilding of the images, the decorous transparency of the glowing glass all around, the most beautiful ornaments of the altars.
You know what I think of? I think of like back in this time, you lived like really far away from this and you just like were out in the country and you travel here and like you walk in this place. Can you imagine seeing that? You're like just blown away. Like you're living in, you know, squalor, and then you come in here and see this and you're like, what the hell? It's pretty crazy.
The wonderful virtues of the sanctuaries, the
Their mind would
design
be
of the
blown.
reliquaries externally adorned with gleaming gems, and so great exaggeration of beauty is generously given to that house of prayer that, upon entering it, as if carried off to heaven, one would not without reason think has entered one of the most precious chambers of paradise.
Yeah, this was probably like the most spectacular thing that anyone had ever seen at the time. I mean, still, even today, this is mind-blowing. It's really, really cool. Check out Manuel Bravo. That's how you pronounce it. I'm pretty sure Manuel Bravo. Check him out. Did a great little video here. I enjoyed that a lot. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.